Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Rescuers say it is still too dangerous to search for survivors tonight after tourists in New Zealand were trapped by an erupting volcano, spewing ash and smoke 12,000 feet in the air. There are at least 5 dead and dozens injured, and there are Americans who still have not been accounted for. It happened on New Zealand's White Island. That is a popular tourist attraction where more than 10,000 people visit every year. And there are questions tonight about why people were allowed to set foot on one of New Zealand's most active volcanoes just weeks after geologists warned of volcanic unrest. Ian Lee leads off our coverage tonight.
Vakari's eruption sent violent clouds of pulverized rock and steam into the mid-afternoon sky, covering White Island's moon-like surface in more than a foot of ash. This webcam image taken just beforehand shows a group of people exploring the topmost reaches of the volcano. Another group can be seen huddling on the shore below. Within minutes, first responders navigated treacherous conditions to rescue 34 people. Many of those evacuated were seriously injured, some with severe burns. 8 people are still missing, 5 were killed. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern.
No signs of life have been seen at any point.
Vakari is a major tourist destination, drawing an estimated 10,000 people a year. Among them, Lauren Barham and Matthew Urey, newlyweds from Virginia who are on a Royal Caribbean cruise for their honeymoon. Both are now hospitalized.
This was ridiculous. It was absurd, and people died.
Rick and Barbara Barham heard from their daughter just before she left for the island hike.
Had my daughter known that there was any risk involved, she wouldn't have gone.
The cruise line markets the trip by focusing on the adventure of exploring hot volcanic streams. But geologists recently saw an increase in dangerous gas, prompting them to raise the alert level.
On the scheme of things, for volcanic eruptions, it's not large, but if you are close to that, it is not good.
Experts warn that there still could be more eruptions from this volcano. But Nora, one of the big questions this evening is, with the increased volcanic activity, why were people allowed on the island in the first place?
A deep question indeed, Ian. Thank you.
The obvious question, how are you?
Not the best. We didn't sleep much at all last night because we sort of spotted it at about 6 o'clock. And my daughter also seen it, and she rang up and said that she'd found out that they were actually did the trip to the island. But what we don't know is whether it was an escorted trip or whether they went across and walked around themselves. Because daughter-in-law, Lisa, she's a petroleum engineer and a bit of a geologist as well, I think, so she could have been interested in that area, but we don't know.
How was last night? It would have been pretty tough.
Pretty tough, yeah. I was up about every half hour, not every half hour, but every 2 hours, and I'd be checking the computer to see if there was any messages there or any news there that I could pick up that might, but we'd registered him with Foreign Affairs and registered with the Red Cross, and I checked the Red Cross site about 4 times, but still nothing there.
Brian, what was your reaction when you saw what had happened in New Zealand and you realised that, you know,
I panicked a bit, got a bit teary. Because we were just lost, and nobody could tell us anything. Travel agent this morning, we rang them, and she's been very good, and they rang us back and said that unfortunately they couldn't find any more than what we'd been able to find out. So we've sort of didn't sleep too good at all.
Are you holding out hope that they're okay?
Well, we did hear on the news earlier this morning that the ones who were missing had their relatives had been notified. Well, we have made a phone call in that direction. So we're sort of hoping that they're in hospital somewhere, because as far as we know, they didn't get back on the ship. That's all
Brian,
we know.
Your daughter, is it, that has gone over to New Zealand?
No, it's my daughter-in-law's brother.
He's gone over to New
He's
Zealand.
gone over,
What's
yeah.
the purpose of that trip? Is that to try and...
Well, I don't know. They rang up about 6 o'clock this morning. He went across, so I think he's going to check the hospitals out and see if he can find them. We've been trying to contact him by phone, but it's dead. But whether it's out of range or whether he hasn't got roaming on his phone, I'm not too sure.
Brian, just describe to us how emotionally difficult this is, simply not knowing and them being so far away as well.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. I think if we knew one way or the other, like if we knew they were on the island and didn't make it, well, we could probably come to some terms with that. But at the moment, we've got nothing to hang on. The only thing was I did see a photo of a boat and with some of them coming off, and one of them did look like him, but it couldn't have been him because he didn't get back on the ship according to the ship.
So is it just a case of waiting by the phone, or what have you been doing?
Well, we've been waiting on the phone. I've been checking the computer about every half hour. That's all I can do.
And no luck?
No, not a thing.
What sort of bloke is Gavin and the family? What sort of people are they?
Well, pretty homely type. They're fairly community involved. Lisa's a member of the Adelaide Rotary Club. Gavin's a member of the Prospect Rotary Club. He's been working on the constitution to bring the two districts together. He was, when he got back to Sydney, he was going to Melbourne for Christmas, and then he was coming back here to line umpire for the tennis. Then he was flying back to Melbourne to line umpire at the Australian Open, so he keeps himself fairly busy.
And Brian, what sort of bloke is he? Is Gavin? What sort of bloke is he? For those that know him, or that don't know, what type of person is he? What type of bloke is he?
Oh, he's pretty friendly, easy to get on with. Probably a typical Lee in some ways, but we get used to that.
And Gavin, obviously,
he's a good help. His mother's got lung cancer, and he's been coming out whenever he can. Sometimes he gets tied up at work, but comes out and takes us into the oncology at St Andrews and brings us back again. So
what about Lisa? What sort of? She's only 15. You know.
No, Lisa.
Sorry, Zoe.
Zoe.
That makes it even sadder.
We don't see that much of her actually because she's studying and she goes to get mixed up with girl guides quite a bit. So. But she's very tall. She'd be taller than you.
Yeah,
taller than you, I reckon.
But still, you know, a 15-year-old being tied up in all this it makes it
well,
sad,
this is what's got us worried, whether what sort of emotional effect it's going to have. So it's it's emotional for all of us at the moment. I've got his nephew out here. He goes to the cricket and football with quite often, so he's out here, and my nephew's down from Palmer on our side of the family, so we've sort of got a bit of help. Our minister rang up this morning, so.
And does Phil Hoffman know anything? Does the cruise company know anything?
No, well, that's it. She rang us back this morning. I rang them this morning, but he said he's already working on some of it, so I presume he was checking on who else is on the ship. I dare say there's more than Gavin and Lisa, and so he's been sort of working there.
So you're not even sure. So you know they left the ship.
Yeah,
but
that's
you're not
all
sure,
we know.
and you don't know.
Don't know whether they made it. There's one bit worried me when I read there's 5 confirmed dead and 3 of them were Australians. Well, 3 was an unlucky number to look at. But according to them, according to other news, notified everybody, so we're still not sure. See, if they're suffering burns or something like that, or throat burns, they mightn't be able to talk that well, And the other thing, they wouldn't have had any identification on them, I don't think, except for their ship tag. I don't think they would have taken their passport or anything else across.
Yeah, what do you do from here, Brian? Is it just a matter of keeping...
Just about sitting down waiting, just by the phone. Can't do anything else, we just got to keep the phone on the line.
And how is this whole situation making you feel?
Oh, that's terrible. Not the best, by any means. If we knew something one way or the other, it'd be a help, but we know nothing. That's the whole point.
So when we got there, it was quite an experience. It was like I've seen the Chernobyl miniseries, and there was just everything was just blanketed in ash. It was quite an overwhelming feeling. You know, there was a helicopter on the island that had obviously been there at the time, with its rotor blades were off it. It's quite a shocking experience, I suppose, but we have to try and put that to the side for now and get on with what we're doing. And so as we were heading towards Whakatane, we were getting reports that there were numbers of casualties. We were already hearing reports over the ambulance radio that there were multiple patients being on boats already. We were getting status updates, so we knew there were high acuity patients, so very, very critical patients. But in the back of our mind, we could see a massive plume of coming from the island. We didn't find any survivors on the island, and it was, it would have been quite traumatic for them.
The scale of this tragedy is devastating. Police and Defence Force personnel have undertaken a number of aerial reconnaissance flights over the island since the eruption. However, no signs of life have been detected. In the immediate aftermath of the eruption, a number of helicopter pilots made the conscious decision to fly to the island to try to rescue people. One Respec rescue helicopter, 2 private helicopters, along with a helicopter from the tour operator Volcanic Air, all landed on the island after the eruption to assist survivors. I want to acknowledge their courage. In their immediate efforts to get people off the island, those pilots made an incredibly brave decision under extremely dangerous circumstances. Having met them just this morning, I suspect their own personal safety was the last thing on their minds, and I'm sure all of this House would wish to pay tribute to them. Our hearts go out to the families of those who are injured, missing or deceased. Among those injured or missing are people from Australia, the United States, the UK, China, Germany, Malaysia, as well as New Zealand. To those who have lost or are missing family and friends, we share in your grief and sorrow, and we are devastated. To our international partners and friends, we will do everything we can to support you as you have supported us in times past. In particular, our family in Australia has been heavily impacted. We feel the pull of our bond acutely at this time. I know there will be a huge amount of concern and anxiety for those who have loved ones on or around the island at the time, and I can assure them police are doing everything they can.
Well, White Island, also known as Wakari, is in the Bay of Plenty off New Zealand's east coast and is the country's most active cone volcano. In November, government scientists issued warnings of increased activity on the privately owned island. On December the 3rd, scientists raised the alert from 1 to 2 and warned the volcano may be entering a period where eruptive activity is more likely than normal, adding that the current level of activity does not pose a direct hazard to visitors. But today, the volcano erupted just after 2 p.m. local time. It's been described by experts as a throat-clearing eruption of volcanic gas and ash. Here's Sky's Tom Cheshire.
A tower of ash and smoke 12,000 feet high. This is the terror of the eruption of White Island, taken by a tourist who'd been standing on the edge of the crater just half an hour earlier.
At this stage, we can confirm that amongst those currently listed as missing or injured are New Zealanders who were part of the tour operation and tourists from Australia, the United States, the United Kingdom, China and Malaysia. That is to the best of our knowledge. To those who have lost or are missing family and friends, we share in your unfathomable grief at this moment in time and in your sorrow. Your loved ones stood alongside Kiwis who are hosting you here, and we grieve with you and we grieve with them.
The volcano erupted at 2:11 in the afternoon. White Island is about 30 miles off the coast of New Zealand's North Island, and a fleet of helicopters was quickly dispatched. They evacuated 23 people and brought them back to hospitals on the mainland. Many were treated for burn injuries, and those who've been confirmed dead were among the rescued. But others did not make it off the island. Emergency workers could not search the volcano itself because of the unsafe conditions. But aerial reconnaissance has confirmed the worst.
The pilot that went out there and spent about 45 minutes has provided a pretty good indication that we do not believe anybody else has survived that explosion. We also had the Eagle helicopter up there as well for a considerable period of time, and we could detect no signs of life.
We understand dozens of tourists were on a trip to the island from the Ovation of the Seas cruise ship, despite warnings of an increase in volcanic activity issued in November and December. This image, taken 10 minutes before the eruption from a webcam inside the volcano, shows the tiny figures of people on a tour around the crater itself. This one, taken just 1 minute before, appears to show them heading away.
Any of the tourists on the island would have had no warning to this whatsoever. If you were far away from the crater, you would have seen the eruption happen. If you were in the crater, you would have just found yourself within it. This would have been an immediate eruption that happened kind of beneath your feet or next to you. There would have been perhaps a small bit of rumbling, but no more than a second or two. No time for evacuation in this situation.
In one instant, this popular tourist site turned into a disaster zone. The search and recovery operation will continue today. After that, authorities must answer the question of whether visitors should ever have been allowed in harm's way. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.
Sudden and deadly volcano erupting on an island in New Zealand. Americans feared to be among the missing tonight. The volcano sending ash soaring 12,000 feet into the air with no warning, as tourists from all over the world were standing along its rim and climbing up its sides. And this video tonight from a boat that had left just minutes before the blast. At least 5 people killed and many still missing. Here's ABC's James Longman tonight.
Tonight, a terrifying escape for tourists fleeing this massive volcanic eruption that came close to killing them. Watch the cloud burst across the water towards their speeding boat. Tour guides begging them to get to safety. The sudden eruption hit just after 2 p.m. on New Zealand's White Island. Volcanic ash spewing 12,000 feet into the air. 47 people were on the island when the volcano erupted, some coming from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Look at this group of people inside the crater. This image taken minutes before the explosion. New Zealand officials saying at least 5 are confirmed dead. More than 30 were rescued, some severely burned. Several Americans among the missing.
It is now clear that there were 2 groups on the island, those who were able to be evacuated and those who were close to the eruption.
Tourist Michael Shade shooting this video. He just left the island with his family 20 minutes earlier, capturing these images of a group huddled on a pier, desperate for safety. A wrecked helicopter visible in the ash behind them, the whereabouts of its passengers unknown.
We do not believe anybody else has survived that explosion.
Our foreign correspondent James Longman with us live tonight. And James, you've learned that scientists had warned of increased activity at this volcano, what, just 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, David, scientists reported an increase in gases and small volcanic tremors, and it's long been known as an unpredictable volcano. So big questions tonight over why tourists are still allowed to climb it. A second eruption is possible, which may mean if there are bodies on the island, it may be very difficult to retrieve them. David?
James Longman on this for us again tonight. James, thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.